Oh, geez. It's I'm live. I'm live. Oh, I'm starting to get my head wrapped around this whole live thing. I'm not that good at it, quite frankly. So, I'm Sue Kropbauer, and well, I'm all about helping people reinvent midlife. I help boomers, Gen Xers, and even you older millennials around, the I don't know, 30, mid 30s on up who have big dreams but are feeling a little bit hesitant, stuck about how to create a vision for midlife that you feel passionate about. As a midlife mentor, I help people take a closer look at your thinking and how it's affecting your life. My goal is to help you get a new perspective on what you want and how to make the right decisions and what you want to be when you grow up and to get really clear about the life you really, really want. So, you'll get to know me better as I come here every week, but I talk to myself a lot. Sometimes internally and sometimes right out loud. But I do make sure the dog's in the room, so I'm not crazy, really. And that running commentary just seems to keep me moving and motivated. However, in the weekly transition group that I facilitate, a couple of weeks ago, the concept of self-talk was on the table. And a gal named Beth said something that, well, frankly, made me giggle right out loud. She said that one of her mother's favorite phrases was, "Don't should on yourself." Well, since then, I've been thinking more about when we use words like should and have to and must, and how this thinking affects the way we make decisions, which in turn affects our actions. And like a line of dominoes, this in turn affects what we believe, how we act, and that creates our own reality. So, what we put in our minds determines what we get out. No should, Sherlock. Well, since then, I've become a little bit more aware of and interested in how my thought patterns are manifesting themselves, how they're coming out. And like when you buy a new car, I begin to hear them everywhere. Oh, come on. You know what I mean. You research and you look and you buy a new car because it's cool and it's new and you're the only one on the block with it. And then, well, bam. You're driving around and you're shining a new car and all you see around you are cars that you bought in the color you chose. There's one there and there and there. And your eyes are opened to all the cars that are out there. In this case, my inner monologue was a should show and was affecting me in a negative way. Okay, let me explain. You know this, I know this, but sometimes you just need to hear the obvious. What we say affects how we think. These words, should, ought to, have to, need to, must, are used to convey a sense of obligation, something you have to do. And as this soundtrack in my brain was peppering my self-talk, I was creating for myself a mindset of obligation that I was then living out in my daily life. What I hear, and that includes what I say to myself all day long, all goes back into my mind, my subconscious mind, sometimes referred to as the lizard brain, doesn't filter or evaluate any of the information it receives. It just processes it and reacts to it. So, if your language is telling your brain that you are obligated to do this or that, well, to be this or that, then, well, that's what you're going to subconsciously believe. This will have huge influence on your mindset, decision making, and your behavior. Well, that's a huge problem. Now don't tune me out. Mindset is just another word for your beliefs, and Well, frankly, I promise I won't get all woo-woo on you. It's just really not my style. But back to the topic at hand. Why does it matter? Because this inner monologue, what I like to call a bad software load, come from the tech industry, well, it leads to living every day in our self-made, self-perpetuating mode of false belief. An attitude of constant debt or obligation is just frankly a heavy lift. Obligation drives your thoughts and your behavior. You are not free. That someone else's voice is directing everything you do. And if you add to that all the outside messages that we get from TV and Netflix and YouTube and Pinterest telling us what we should look like, what must-have items we should be buying, what we have to do, well, this can make it super hard to push through with our own decision making. So, we get stuck. Our ability to make decisions, to move forward on our dreams, goals, aspirations, it just literally crumbles under the weight of all these shoulds. What should I do? Oh gosh, what if I get it wrong? Bogged down in that jello of our monkey brain syndrome, we focus back on the to-do list. The list that never ends and seems to list more of our failures as fast as we are trying to list our successes. It's our own personal should show. For sure. And I started to realize that these words were cropping up all over the place, kind of like the car, in my own monologue and from others around me, and I started to get ticked off. But, well, in a good way that was productive. And before I was being a tad passive-aggressive about it, procrastinating and dragging my feet because it felt like, well, someone else was making me do this or that. But now I was digging in my heels and pushing back against what I'd been told to do. From this new perspective, my life looked a little bit like our backyard right before we mow. Little piles of dog should everywhere. Frankly, I got mad. So my poor hubby got the brunt of it one day. We were just kicking back and talking about this or that when he said, well, you should blank about whatever it was. And oh, goodness gracious, the crater, ground zero of my reaction hit that poor man smack between the eyes. Don't tell me I should, blah, 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 blah. So, what happened? I had felt the weight of another thing auto-adding itself to my to-do list, and I pushed back hard. Well, let's be clear for a second. This is a perfect example of what not to do when your growing awareness creates this sense of digging in your heels, of resistance. It's the old adage from our mothers, right? They would say, do as I say, not as I do. A better, healthier way for you, for your people who are important around you, like my husband Rick, is to start to exchange words like must and have to for words that create a sense of possibility, of opportunities. This allows you to create options for yourself and opens doors to new possibilities and prospects. So here's some examples. I'll whip through them pretty quick here. Instead of I have to call Kathy, I change it to I will call Kathy. Will is a decision that I make. And when I complete a mini decision, well, it builds our self-confidence if you do that, little mini decisions. I will, or I could call Kathy. Could and maybe are words of open possibility. From being bogged down, we transform into a larger possibility of new ideas and new options to choose from. I can or I get to call Kathy. Can gives us options and speaks to our own ability to choose. And get means, woohoo, I get to, not have to. That's a beautiful thing. I want to call Kathy. Want. Now that's a dangerous word. Did I just want something for myself? When you complete a want, it creates a sense of satisfaction. You've given yourself permission to have your own desires, your own priorities, your own dreams, your own beliefs. Imagine if you actually listened to what you want. What would your life look like then? By changing your language, your habit, you're rewriting the bad software in your head. You're convincing that lizard brain, that monkey brain, to make a paradigm shift by using self-empowering words that affirm your choices, your abilities, and embraces the infinite possibilities that you can create for yourself. So, are you in the middle of a should show? Are you creating your own should show? I might say, no should, Sherlock. You need to make a change. Change your words, change your monologue, change your bad software load. So, let's meet up again next Friday and let's see how that should show turned into a can show and a get show. Right? Have a great week.